when you were a young player coming through, what was your memories of him?
Well, Jimmy was, you could tell right away what a character he was. You could tell right away just how much Rangers meant to Jimmy. Jimmy at that point was the bus driver for us, and not the kit guy. He was just a bus driver at that time, and I've never seen anyone drive a bus like this in my life. He could drive a bus like most people would drive a trolley in Safeway. Fantastic! Like it was unbelievable. And of course, the lads used to wind him up. Jimmy, you're taking your time tonight, and he really did. He really did get us there on time. There was no grey areas, but his love for the club was incredible. Jimmy was from Shotts, and I grew up in the village next to Shotts called Allington, and my brother lives in Hart Hill. So Jimmy's family knew my mum's family. My mum was from Shotts. My dad grew up in Allington, so we'd very much that Lanarkshire connection, But he was very approachable. He loved the game. He loved his football, and he loved the Rangers. But that's probably my primary memory would be the fact of how much pride he took when the bus pulled up front of Ibrox and we were leaving to go to games and so on, and just what it meant to him to sit behind the wheel of not, even obviously in first team games. We only got him when he was when the reserves were playing and the first team weren't. But Jimmy was always there on time. Let's say that, Derek.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite incredible, isn't it? I mean, you were there late 80s, Colin. I mean, he was still at the club for almost a lifetime, if you like. You said that he was a bus driver and then he was a kit man, but he did so much more. You see all the different, I mean, last season, the former manager Giovanni Bronckhorst speaking very highly of him. He sort of touched everyone that passed through its doors, didn't he?
Well, it's no coincidence, Derek, that Jimmy was so long at Rangers. You're only there, you only survive at a club because you're good at what you do, and also being a character. Jimmy wasn't shy at giving you the belt now and again. But his quick wit was fantastic, and you need that around a football club. You do, because the pressure that everybody's under, especially at Rangers. You need someone that can break the ice a wee bit, and Jimmy certainly, with his quick wit, was terrific at that. There was no grey areas with Jimmy, that's for sure.
Yeah, and of course the kit man at the time, would it be Doddy Suter there at the time? That was when you were there, Colin. Was that must have been some partnership, those two?
Oh well, wee Doddy was a special man as well, of course, and he. It's amazing that every club has these characters around the club, and generally they're elder gentlemen that have been around, have been there and bought the T-shirt. Even when I was down at Derby County with Billy Davies in the Premier League as Billy's first team coach, there was a couple of older gentlemen that were kit guys that had been with through the Brian Clough era and so on and so forth. So Jimmy Bell became a part of the institution, didn't he? I mean, you just saw the reaction from the Rangers supporters and obviously the Rangers players. There were a lot of very, very upset people when Jimmy passed. He was part of our family, wasn't he? And I think the reception that he got just speaks volumes for how well he was thought of. I mean, whenever there was some mischief that was going on, you could always see Jimmy in the background or hear about him in the background. So it just shows you how well he was thought of.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you didn't need any telling how big the club was at the time when you joined, Colin. But I guess he was instrumental in sort of setting those standards, isn't he? Like you say, he knew what Rangers was all about, and he made sure that the players were well aware of that.
Oh, he did, and even to the point where players, it might sound a wee bit over the top, but Jimmy looked after the bus. It was Mr. Park's bus, of course, and he just took pride in everything that he did, and when you go on the bus, you're always wearing your Rangers unit, suit and tie, and it was just all part of the privilege of being part of the club. And Jimmy wore that blazer with a great deal of pride, I can tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, for yourself, I mean, it leaves a lasting impression, doesn't it? It's so sad hearing and pass away last season, just after the Celtic game, I'm sure it was, before the big Leipzig game as well. And we've seen what happened at Ibrox that night. It was a special night, and a lot of emotion in the ground that night. It just shows you that he was how highly regarded he was at that football club, that special club, Colin?
Yes, I mean, as I said, Derek, to be around so many managers and the club for so long speaks volumes for his personality, and obviously being good at his job. I mean, that's the other thing, of course, is that you wouldn't be hanging about, Derek, if you were poor at your job. And Jimmy was obviously very, very good at what he did, and I can imagine not knowing him as a kit guy, but certainly knowing him and the pride that he took in getting the bus there on time and being the privileged driver that he was for the first team as many times as he was. It wasn't no surprise that he lasted so long, and certainly no surprise how big the reception was that he got, because he became a real big part, as I said earlier, of our institution.